Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WhoKnewPodcast. All our episodes are on WhoKnewPodcast.com. You can leave comments there, or email us at WhoKnewPodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram and Twitter account. Tweet at us at WhoKnewPodcast, and find us on Facebook.
Hello, Gallifrey One, how are ya?
Janet Fielding on stage. And can we get Mr. Peter Davison on stage?
We're going to bring Tosin Cole on.
And let's give it up for Pearl, Mackie, come on!
So the Who Knew Podcast went to the 31 flavors of Gallifrey One this February, the year 2020. And this year we got everybody to come along, which was great. The one thing that was the big ticket item was that Christopher Eccleston was going to be the first time he was at a Gallifrey One convention, and it was definitely long lines for his autographs and other VIP interactions, and
even his talk, I think some people didn't get in on Saturday.
That's right.
I read on their website after the fact they were apologizing, and they said there's no justification, but they had never had a guest before in 30 years that every single person at the convention wanted to see at the same time.
Yeah.
And it was a unique experience for them, and they're like, we were trying to figure it out as we went along, and we think we did okay. We'll do better next time.
And they did, to their credit. They did have an announcement at Saturday night's panel before he came out saying, for those of you who are here, please don't come to tomorrow's, so that those people who are still outside in line who could not get in, and they set a separate line for them in the morning for them to come in, and then they had the regular general admission for the people who were planning to see him that day. So they did have the two lines going, yes, if you didn't make it in and you're in line Saturday night, there's a special line, you'll definitely get to see him in the morning.
I think we also missed the even bigger problem, which was the autograph line.
Yeah.
Because the autograph line started late. There was a hiccup because they couldn't set the screen up properly. So that's started the pictures late. Then he moved over to the autographs, so the autographs were late, and the autograph line was so long and chaotic. And so they've actually already made the decision. Next year they are moving the photos and the autograph lines off the floor.
But the thing is, he also spent time with the people. He had to
Yes.
talk to people with the autographs.
He was very
It
generous.
was very nice. So that also delayed it, but,
Right, but then
it
that
made it
also
more
meant-
meaningful when you were there.
Right, but then it also meant that a lot of people didn't get autographs, even if they've been standing in line for
Right.
4 hours.
And I think the same thing happened with them. They were put in the front of the line
Oh, nice.
the next morning. I think.
I don't know. All I know is that I was told that it was, when was it? Was it Sunday, 2 o'clock? Or was it Saturday, 2 o'clock? Someone told me that they were about to go talk to a girl who'd been standing in line since 9:30 in the morning to get his autograph. She was outside. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
I don't know if they're going to change their policy, because right now they do not clear out their main auditorium. You can stay there and watch the next presentation. But I was there and I saw Peter Davison's interview panel. And then they had another hour for something, and I stayed because more people kept arriving. So I thought, I'm still here and I want to see Eccleston. So I didn't want to leave. And then by the time Eccleston was in, Eugene and Brian were supposed to meet me. But it's like, I can't save seats. They won't allow you to
we
do
were
that.
fully expecting to be in the back. Me and Josh.
Oh, you and Josh?
Yeah. He showed up later.
Oh, okay. Because it was all texting.
Yeah, Eugene was actually hanging out with me and Aldrin
Okay.
during Eccleston's first interview.
So when that hour is done and everybody's leaving, these seats did arrive, and Brian said, we're the first ones in line trying to get in. So the other people around me were fine, and they were able to come in quickly, and they were able to sit
Yeah.
next to me.
Seats
So
next
that was
to you
really good.
became open.
Right, which just
before.
surprised me, because I thought a lot more people wanted to see Eccleston, but they wanted to leave. They'd either seen him before, not their favorite Doctor, whatever.
I was so glad that we didn't. It was not a priority for me because we had seen him at Portland last year.
Right.
So I wanted to, be generous and let the people that wanted to see him see him.
But I wanted to see him again, because I thought his speech and how he interacts with people were great. So this time I wanted to go.
But I did go on Sunday, and it was a totally different interview than what you had seen on Saturday. So I'm glad I did go.
I loved was hearing people's like, it's the first time Christopher Eccleston. It's the first time Christopher Eccleston. It's like, seen him.
It was nice though, because his birthday was Sunday.
Yeah, that was great.
So it opened with us singing to him "Happy Birthday."
Aww.
That was nice. Because I know that they were different in that they went through each episode and they started talking about each episode in his season.
Oh, interesting.
He was very honest and open, but still, he's gotten to a place where he can look at what happened when he left Doctor Who and the BBC and what they did to him and to his family. And for those who don't know, he had a problem with a lot of the production that was on Doctor Who. The hierarchy that was behind the scenes, dealing with the people who were working day to day and not treating them well. There seems to be a lot of money for the show the first season. It definitely increased as the popularity of the TV show increased again. But they were just butting heads in a lot of different ways. And it seemed like they really kicked him out of being Doctor Who. He wasn't just, I'm leaving. It was like he was kicked out and wasn't able to, didn't want to really say anything because it was just about to air, but they were already kicking him out. But, so people were knowing what was going on. It was just, and they interviewed, and his father had dementia and was also sick with cancer. And the news and BBC kind of bombarded his father and tried to get interviews and things. And that just was like over the line. It's like, he's not involved in any of this. He's sick. Leave him alone. And then they blackballed him for a lot of other projects because they were also hyping up the new Doctor that was coming, being David
they
Tennant.
announced David Tennant was going to be the new Doctor when the third episode. I mean, it was 3 weeks into this brand new show, and they already introduced that another new Doctor was coming, which is insane.
So it didn't work well, and it's like, I wish he would have had more in another season, but that didn't happen. And he's gotten to a point where he can separate what happened and still not liking it, and because of how Russell Davis did things, but saying and positively saying that Russell is the one who brought Doctor Who back. Russell was the reason he wanted to do Doctor Who, because Russell's attached to it, and they'd worked before. So he still thinks he's brilliant and a genius.
Russell's
doesn't
a
make
genius
it
writer.
But that doesn't make it that he's a wonderful person, and so he's able to separate it and really talk honestly about that. His favorite episode was Father's Day. He loved that.
Yeah.
He doesn't remember the last bit of the series because everything was just going so crazy then that he doesn't really have any memories, of the last series, the episodes that he did.
That would be Bad Wolf and Parting of the Ways.
Which is really sad because those are some good stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
He didn't like how it started with the first episodes, that the first block that they filmed, the directors were bad.
He hated
Director was did the same one.
The pilot, World War III,
Aliens in London.
and Aliens in London were the first block, the first 3 episodes filmed, and the director he didn't have anything good to say about the director, so he really didn't say much about that director. But it was like, if you want to be in Hollywood, go to Hollywood. It's like, you're doing Doctor Who. I know you're just coming back, but we don't need all these complicated crane shots for everything and trying to set your style. We don't have time for that. And that's when he said, nor the money. He's like, and then later on they got more money, but for that first season we didn't have the money to do that kind of stuff or the time. And it really, I think it was that early where he said, I want out.
And then
But then some of the episodes did pick up, and he thought Boomtown was amazing to be on a children's show, because he keeps saying that Doctor Who is still considered children's television, in Britain. So it's different than here. So he says the way that they wrote it, the shots that they used, the close-ups, that intimate kind of conversation he had. I can't remember her name right now. Margaret. Okay. But they had just a great intimate scene where she's trying to kill him and they're having dinner and just talking over each other, and it's just because this is really good television. It's really done well theatrically. So he really did like some of the stuff he was doing.
But he loved Joe Ahern.
Yeah, the director Ahern. Yeah.
Who directed I think more than one block.
I think he did Dalek.
Yeah. Oh, and Dalek was interesting because his father had just been diagnosed with dementia. So he had left to go take care of his dad for a little while. And that's when they filmed Father's Day, because that's the Dr. Light episode. Came back, filmed Dalek. And so that scene that we all loved in Dalek, when he's first yelling at the Dalek and he's really angry, he said he used all the anger that he had about his dad's situation in that.
So that's why that episode is so real and raw.
Yeah.
But then Sunday was a completely different tone as far as interview. It was more with like the stuff we saw at Portland with social issues and his life, more biographical. So I like that they did two different interviews. It was good.
And that's good for him too, that he's able to not do the same thing everywhere, because I know he's been very busy.
And he knows how to handle interviews, which is really nice to see. Because sometimes the question's not leading enough or it's going somewhere that he doesn't want to talk about. But he's an open and honest person. It's just really touching to hear him speak because it is authentic and real. And he will then divert that question into a really interesting point. So it's like, it's maybe not what you had initially wanted to hear when the person asks the question, but he gives you good information and he doesn't do it in any negative way. So it was great to watch. I know that he mentioned also that he really liked Billy Piper.
Yes.
And Rose Tyler's character, and gave Russell the credit for writing that and giving it, the women and the companions actual characterizations and not just there for the exposition and damsel in distress kind of thing that they did in the classic series a little bit more.
Okay, so that was the big thing. Let's talk about what we did on Friday. Do you want to talk about what you remember?
What I did on Friday? Well,
talk about your first panel, then we'll go around. Oh,
okay. I only planned like the night before, just seeing who was there. And I remember I saw that Peter Davison was going to be there and I got really excited. He plays the Fifth Doctor. I know Peter Davison more from All Creatures Great and Small, the character Tristan, and who my sister reminded me after the fact when I told her I got a picture with him. She was like, "Oh, you had the biggest crush on him," and I was like, "Oh, did I? I don't remember that. I just remember, liking his character." So I signed up to get a photo with him, and then I saw that Tosin Cole was going to be there, who plays Ryan in the current Doctor Who that we're watching. So I was like, oh, I'll get a picture with Tosin because he's cute.
And I just remember saying, Tosin, just calm down.
So the first panel called An Hour with Bill Blair, and Bill Blair is an actor, and he is the Guinness World Record holder in the category of most special effect makeup characters portrayed in a career, which comes to around like 200. But his IMDb has more than 200 credits because he also does like background acting, or he's not in special effect, or guest roles on many different other episodes or on other shows. But that was cool. Like, there was a small group of us, maybe like 25 or 30 people, and he just talked the whole time. And I asked some questions. And
did you go to the Fifth Doctor TARDIS team?
Yes.
Panel?
Yes.
Can you talk about
that? But after my photo with Peter Davison, I went to a panel that he was on called the Fifth Doctor's TARDIS team. And Peter did a few panels. This is the only one that I went to. I figured it would be interesting because he was going to be on the panel with Janet Fielding, Mark Strickson, and Sarah Sutton, who were all companions
of his
doctor.
That would be Turlo, Tegan, and Nissa.
Now who's this? We've got somebody else with the microphone.
Oh, we've got other people at the microphone.
Is this what happens when people come to the microphone? People have to come down to the microphone. And you'll have to shout at us and let us know you're there because we can't see you.
Yeah, interesting for me, someone who hasn't watched his season at all, but I thought they might have interesting stories. Unfortunately, this panel wasn't moderated in any way, and I think that was too bad. So they talked, the four of them talked for a little bit, maybe like 10 minutes, and then they quickly like threw it to the audience.
Why would they not have a moderator?
I don't know. Don't ask me.
Okay, so something happened. I wish I would have been able to go on Friday, but I had to work.
So speaking of the Fifth Doctor, I went to the Arc of Infinity Travels with the Fifth Doctor panel, which was done by fans, and they were just talking about the highlights and what they liked about growing up with the Fifth Doctor. So they gave some good recommendations on what episodes to do, and I think I've seen a couple that I'm like, I don't think that's as good as you remember.
And that was at the same time as the one I was at, right? 3 o'clock on
No,
Friday?
this one is at 1 o'clock. Yours was at 3.
Okay.
Mine was at 1.
Okay. Because I feel like those panels could have been merged.
Yeah. But anyway, after that, I did the Tosin Cole interview, which
I was there for that as
well. Which was hard to understand. His accent is thick, and he needs to work on his mic placement.
Everyone can hear me in the back, yeah? Oh, see? There we go. All right. Can you hear me now? So if you couldn't hear me, why did you say no?
Actors. the interviewer as well was very soft, and she had the mic away from her. She needs to work on that as well.
And I was sitting up closer, as in like the first section, but I remember looking at the screen at one point after a question had been asked and answered. And I mean, like, obviously I'm definitely projecting this onto Tosin, but he kind of looked like he had a look of like, I don't know what I got myself into by coming here. Like, I'm a little bit overwhelmed right now.
Yeah.
And then also, like, he had mentioned that he had just arrived. Like, he'd just flown in, like, few hours previous, so he was a bit jet lagged as well.
I'm like, good for you, but maybe you need to rest.
One story that I did find entertaining from Tosin's interview was that he had never watched Doctor Who before he auditioned. And at the audition, he shared that they were asking him questions like, how much do you know about the show? So he was trying to pull from the little that he knew. He was like, well, I know there's someone that has a wand and they're like sonic screwdriver. And he's like, and he travels around in a phone box, police box. And he's some sort of alien, or I don't even know if he got that far, but I thought that was funny. And then it also explained a lot why the rest of the interview he didn't have as much.
But so that was sort of lackluster, and then the Pearl Mackie interview right after that made up for the lack in the other one. She was charming. I could understand her. She was very engaging. The interviewer was also very engaging, and when people asked questions, it was great. She knew how to field them, how to respond. She took everybody's question to heart, and made it valuable. Like, it was good. Pearl Mackie, like, I wish she had more than one season.
Yes.
Well, I think the thing about Bill is that she's someone that like overcomes, and she's someone that goes, no, I can do this anyway. I had some disadvantages, but she's not really someone that lets them hold her back.
She was interacting with people who were going to Gallifrey One on social media before the weekend. Like, she was reading everyone's tags that had tagged Gallifrey One, and she was, like, there's a friend of ours, this dorky nerd girl on Instagram who had said, oh, I have 3 Bill Potts outfits, and then Pearl responded back like, oh, I better be able to see I want to see all of them. So
yeah. And Monica was able to get the jean jacket, I believe, signed by Pearl. So that was good. But the one thing, I'll share one quick story about the Pearl Mackie interview, is that she was, I believe, playing something like a play before she got the Doctor Who role. I think that might have been her first TV gig. It was very secretive. Like, BBC likes to keep their secrets under wraps. And Peter Capaldi went over to see the play that Pearl was in, and then everyone's like, Peter Capaldi's here, he's here. And so it kind of threw her off. Is he here to congratulate me about the role that nobody's supposed to know I have?
Oh.
And is he going to let the cat out of the bag with, the crew and the cast of this play that I'm in? And in hindsight, he was like, yeah, I shouldn't have gone to that. See that? It cost too much. So yeah, I thought that was fun. And she likes Peter's hair a little longer before, because she says that it gets curly and then it gets straight as it gets longer. So she likes it right before it gets straight. Yeah, so that was a Friday. That was a good Friday. And then with Saturday, I started off my day with a day in the life of a Doctor Who production.
I think we were all
I think we joined
there for that one. Oh, not Brian. And
No,
not
I went
Frank?
to see the Mars 2020 rover.
We started off at the podcast meetup.
Oh, that's right. That was fun. That was a good way to start off the Saturday.
We met other podcasters.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Podcastica, I think, hosted it.
John Pingle.
Yeah.
And then before that, me and Josh got there a little early to do an interview with Monica from Temple of Geek. So that was good to finally get some cross-pollination there. So we talked about our show, and I was dressed as the War Doctor that day. I forgot that Friday I was dressed as the 12th Doctor. And I went to the 12th Doctor cosplay meetup, so that was cool. I got to see Brian from Galladays, who holds the Doctor Who Happy Hour here in LA, and he was dressed as Pearl.
Oh, nice.
Or not Pearl, but Bill. And then so it was the Bill and 12th Doctor cosplay meetup. So we got to take a photo together there, so that was cool. And then his wife Marilyn also showed up. She was dressed as Amy from The Black Spot with the pirate outfit. So that was cool to see both of them. Got a photo, and that's posted on our Instagram.
Or was that Red from Disneyland?
Maybe. We wants the rum.
Right.
10 for the hen.
And it was great to see Monica very early on Friday, because I did not see her the rest of the day, and she was dressed in her Bill Potts outfit as well. So I took a photo with her as the 12th Doctor. So it was cool to get photos with two different fans that were companions of the Doctor that I was dressed as. But back to Saturday. We got to meet up early with Monica, and then after that we went to the Podcastica meetup. Got to talk to other fans and fans that have podcasts, like we are fans that have a podcast. So that was good to exchange ribbons and buttons and business cards.
And while you guys were doing that, I was next door, I think, listening to two JPL engineers, I believe, Kim Stedman and Sarah Mikulvich, I believe. They were talking about the Mars 2020 rover, which is launching soon. And so they were just going through what the rover will be able to do, how it's different from previous rovers, what their jobs are, and how that affects, like, what they were saying was they literally recently switched over to Mars time. So the Mars day is longer than the Earth day. So they're now on a Mars day cycle, and they will be for a couple years.
Yikes.
They were very funny. They were cracking jokes about it left and right, and kind of, they're engineers, so they were kind of making fun of how engineers are stereotyped. I had a blast. I thought it was great.
I'm glad you reminded me of that, because back to Friday, I ended up going to the end of exploring the ocean moons of the solar system. And it was another like NASA JPL woman speaking about how they do samplings and other things. I didn't get I came very late, but she apparently could project, so she didn't need any of the mics. She was just on the stage. She wasn't near any of the mics at all, and the room was packed. So it was crazy. This woman could project. Wow. But I went in there to go and stay for the panel afterwards, which was Tales from the Backlot, which had a bunch of producers and camera persons working on the Doctor Who show. So that's what I wanted to see. So me and Josh went to that. And what apparently happened is that they turned down all of the audio on the mics because this lady could project. So we sat up front. We could hear everybody on the panel. But the people in the back, like, we can't hear you. And me being a podcaster, I was like, I think I know what's going on. So I went over to the sound mixer. I was like, there's nobody here. I turned everybody's audio up, and everybody could now hear.
You should invoice Gallifrey One for your work.
But I met up with Mark McQuaid and Mark Corden, who were on that panel, and I told them I was the guy that turned them up so you could hear, and they're like, you saved the day, sir. Aww. You should work for the show. You did half the job I do. So it's cool to kind of help out with the experience there, because I'm like, awesome. I know a soundboard and I can see levels bouncing. Anyway. But it was good to hear people from all different seasons and shows, because you had people who started from like Russell to Steven to they're currently on the show.
Yeah,
like,
they went through the whole.
Yeah, like Tracy Simpson started to be producer I think she was always a producer, but she started getting like main producing responsibilities toward Daleks in Manhattan, that time frame. And then people also worked on the Sarah Jane Adventures and Torchwood. So it was good to get a nice cross-section, which also bled into the other panel that most of us went to, which was A Day in the Life in the production.
Of a
I liked it. That was fun.
Yeah.
And it was moderated.
Yes, it was.
And it had like 6 people on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was still being moderated.
And each talking about their own individual jobs and how they, have to do the location scouting, the monetary, how much they can spend in that, what does the storyboards do, getting ideas for costuming, and because it was a period piece, and the makeup,
Casting the
and
extras.
whether or not to do it as CGI or whether or not to do it as more of a practical with the masks.
Yeah. So one quick story is that Tracy Simpson was the producer, and this was for Planet of the Dead. They were looking for hotels to put people in Dubai, and she found this hotel, and she was like, "Fine, we'll book it. David Tennant will stay here." So when David Tennant arrives at the hotel, he rings her up and says, "I think this is a brothel." So without knowing, they had accidentally booked David Tennant at the brothel.
Oh, yes.
Plausible, deniable. Yeah.
It's in his writer.
And this is the story where James de Havilland needed to recruit 6 foot tall and taller actors for The Silence. And he went to a local college sports department after striking out, pun intended, at the medical division of that college because they were all busy like, I need to go take an exam. I need to go take an exam. And so he goes to where people are playing sports, and he naturally gets some people to go, okay, I'll come on to the show. After that panel, the next one after that was guest starring on Doctor Who. And it had a nice cross-section, again, of people who starred on different aspects of the show, like the woman in Dalek that took over the secret collection. I can't remember her name.
Or she sends Stanton to a place, a city that starts with an M.
Yeah.
Diana Goddard.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Diana Goddard was the character she played. And then Anjli Mohindra played Ronnie on the Sarah Jane Adventures.
Well, she also had just played Queen
Yes,
Skithra on Doctor Who.
the current
So
season.
these were mostly like one-off characters.
Well, because of the 5th Doctor's TARDIS team, I had a question that I wanted to ask Janet Fielding. And I saw that she was having an interview at the same time as the panel that you all stayed for. So Almond and I went to that. And I did get to ask my question. So I asked, I want to know if you watched any current Who episodes and what you think about the roles of the companions and how it compares to how the writers wrote Tegan's character or other past companions. Her answer was more about and it turns out that she is someone who is a fan of the show. And so when I said current, she meant the episode that aired last Sunday. She was like, "Oh yes, I'm definitely watching. I love the new Doctor. I love Jodie Whittaker." But what she had to say, of course, was not what I was getting at all. But she noted that she thinks that 3 companions is too crowded. She says 1 companion is too few, and 2 is the right amount. I think during her season, Tegan traveled with the Doctor alongside Turlo. And
Nyssa
a lot of different
at one point.
And Nyssa at one point.
And Aldred.
So that her TARDIS did get a bit crowded, and she can kind of see how it's crowded even today with the 13th Doctor having 3 companions.
And Davison said the same thing in his interview, where he does think that 3 companions are too many. And in his time, it was at that time that Nyssa left. And he didn't want Nyssa to go. And so she left and they got Turlo, I think. So they still had 3. And then he was like, I wish they had just blown Adric up earlier or something like that. It's like, oh, he's not a fan of Adric. Okay.
I went to This or That, which they asked the panelists, this or that questions. Which one would you prefer? One of those quick ones. But I was not there on Friday, and I definitely wanted to see Pearl. The guests were Tosin Cole, Pearl Mackie, and Michelle Ryan. So I thought, okay, it'd be fun just at least see them since I wasn't able to be at the interview part. And they'd ask questions like Dalek or Cybermen. And Pearl would say, definitely not Cybermen, which got everybody laughing.
Wait, I don't know if I get it.
If you watch that season with Bill, then you will towards the end of the season. So it was just at least to get a flavor in who these people are. And so some of their answers they then embellished, which was really nice, not just answering this or that. That was one of the questions I wanted to ask, but ran out of time, was if they bring you back to Doctor Who, do you want to revisit the character you've already done and see how they progress and change? Or did you want to come in as a new character? But later on, I did see Michelle Ryan in her interview, I think on Sunday.
Sunday, yes.
And she had said that she doesn't like to go back to the character she's already done. So it kind of answered my question the next day, going, no, if she would probably do Doctor Who, want to be a different kind of character.
And that was Lady Christina?
Right. But Lady Christina might be the only one that she would want to revisit again.
Oh, good. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was a really good character.
Lady Christina, I think Michelle Ryan does Big Finish audio.
Stories.
Right.
So that's how she's revisited that character through the
nice.
audio dramas.
Cool.
Yeah, Big Finish had quite the presence at Gallifrey One this year.
Yeah.
I mean, they always have a booth, I think, and even the city of LA honored Big Finish productions this year.
Really?
Yeah, they're a member of City Council presented Big Finish with a certificate. She mentioned that she was the biggest Doctor Who fan on City Council, and they presented it at the end of that. They were given for the work that they've done in the city of LA, because I guess they do a lot of their recordings in LA, and brought jobs here, I guess.
Cool.
So yeah, so that was neat.
Yeah, one thing about in that panel that was revealed is that in The Day of the Doctor, at the end, you have Tom Baker come back, and he plays the curator or the caretaker in the museum. That character is going to be coming back in audio dramas with the Eighth Doctor adventures. And since we did Sarah Jane Adventures, I went to looking back at the Sarah Jane Adventures with a couple people, like producer Gary Russell, Stephen Morris, and then Anjli Mohindra was there, and the composer, I can't remember his name.
Sam Watts?
Yes, Sam Watts was there. That was a very good panel. I was enjoying my time there. They talked about how Anjali mentioned that one thing that she wished she would do more was spend more time with Elizabeth Sladen.
Because then one day she's gone.
And she also mentioned that Elizabeth Sladen was a private person. So while she was on set, she was, doing the job, friendly. But then when it came time for break, she would go home and be with her family. Whereas Anjali, being young, would hang out with Tommy Knight, who played Clyde Langer, and they would go out and kind of more or less party. So, that was their time, so they're young. But they had a lot of fun. She mentioned how there was this one day where they just could not stop laughing at some stupid graphic. And then it's like one of those things where you're laughing in church or at a funeral and you just can't stop laughing because it's the time not to laugh.
The giggle loop.
Yep.
The giggle loop. That's another Stephen Moffat from Coupling. But there was so much on Saturday to do. There were all the
I
other
was
different
amazed.
panels.
Yeah.
At least, for us, who we wanted to see all these different things. The whole James Webb Space Telescope. Brian went to.
Josh and I went to that. That was very good.
I would have liked to see the Mars Rover as well. And it was like there was packed stuff to do on Saturday for such a small type of convention.
And I think I spent all of 10 minutes in the dealer's room that whole day. And then it was like, oh, yeah, I want to see Michelle Ryan. So I went over and joined you to see Michelle Ryan, and then saw Ronnie.
Those are good. Those are good panels.
Those were on Sunday. Those were Sunday's
Oh,
panels.
that was Sunday?
Yeah.
Oh.
But those moderators did a good job.
They did.
Saturday, my favorite panel, probably for the whole weekend, ended up being the plausible and implausible worlds of the Doctor Who universe. And it was it wasn't moderated because it was just one person, Dr. Jessica Christensen of the NASA Exoplanet Science Institute and Caltech. But I liked it because it was very well planned. Like, she had a whole PowerPoint that went with it, and she's a scientist, but she's also a massive Doctor Who fan. And so she even had some people help her make her presentation, or help her gather information for her presentation. So like you could tell a lot of thought went into her presentation, which is also like probably why I really enjoyed it. And some of the stuff that she talked about, I hope to bring to future podcasts when we're talking about different planets. Her main thing, I guess, was taking some Doctor Who planets and then breaking down how plausible those planets would exist, or comparing them to planets that we know exist in the universe, and saying this is very similar to this planet. And it was funny, like in Doctor Who, you've got planets called like Skaro and Croptor and Augrus and the food sphere, and real life planets are called Kepler 186f and Kepler 452b in K 2228. And so I don't know, it was just a really fun panel, and I really enjoyed it, and it was brought to us by a scientist and a Doctor Who fan, and it was just so cool.
What was the name of the scientist?
Dr. Jesse Christensen.
Well, just hearing, like, I went to the Planet one with Kelsey, and then also hearing Brian and Frank talk about the other kind of not specifically about the show, but kind of about science around the show. And I think next year I will probably try to go to more of those panels, because I really enjoyed the Planet one compared to some other panels I went to. And it sounds like there are more people that are excited to actually be there and present, rather than maybe some of the cast who, for whatever reason, have either done it a lot before or are doing it kind of as a job. Like, these are people that are passionate about Doctor Who and about science. So not only for myself, like, I think I will attempt to do that next year, but if we have any listeners that are going to Galley again or in the future, don't overlook the panels that are presented by scientists that aren't just about the show, because I think they're some of the better ones.
Or below the line production.
I loved those panels.
Yeah, those panels, I think I was so glad that there were so many of them spread out through more than one day. So that I really got a kick out of that. The other thing that I really enjoy about this Comic-Con is that everybody here is a Doctor Who fan. So I enjoyed seeing the costumes that people come up with, their interpretations, their screen accuracy, just whatever people wore, I wanted to just like applaud them for. It was great.
Oh, some of the costumes were fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Some were fantastic because they were so close to the original and so realistic to that. And some were great because they were so unique. And the one that just pops into my mind is the Jedi Doctor.
Yes.
He did great with that, having, instead of a Sonic, having his lightsaber, instead of carrying around, for the Doctor, the Cyberman head, he had the Mandalorian head.
Yeah.
it was just done well. It was really done fun and well. Kerblam.
Yeah.
That one looked really great.
Great.
To the
Holy
delivery
moly. Last year, I bought the 12th Doctor's coat. And so this year, I went as a 12th Doctor to kind of commemorate that. And so I enjoyed wearing that around. And then on Saturday, I was the War Doctor, which I'd only worn once. And so I was glad to wear it again. And I got a lot of compliments on that one. So it was good.
When I checked in, the woman said that I looked very dapper.
You did.
I also low-key cosplayed on Saturday. Very, very low-key. No one thought I was in cosplay. But for me, I was. I was wearing a coat that I had just stumbled upon, or a jacket, rather, that I stumbled upon that I thought was in the essence of the 12th Doctor. So I wore it along with some 12th Doctor shades, and I enjoyed that. And I bought a shirt in the marketplace, or what's it called, dealer's room?
Yeah.
In the dealer's room. To go with that jacket, to make it even more 12th Doctor-y. So next time I'll wear the shirt with the jacket and the shades, and then maybe people know what I'm going for.
So at this point, you were more bounding.
I guess I was bounding.
Then you're going, to get more equipment.
She's
more
beginning her
parts
cosplay.
Parts of your costume,
yes.
then you're going to be cosplaying.
Yeah, I'm building my cosplay outfit.
Which is good.
I talked to some people who are in full cosplay, and they gave me some advice, and that was really cool.
Oh, and we ran into Paul Salamoff, who we interviewed with Matt Jacobs, so it was nice to see him again there.
Yeah, it was.
He's a good friend of the show. Other than that, I mean, that's what I really like about this convention, is that you get to see a bunch of fans that you've met other places, and then they all kind of come here together.
Or even coworkers.
It's a small world.
That's right.
You
guys got a
didn't know
coworker.
we're Doctor Who fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to run into Monica and Nate from Temple of Geek, and then the Gal Days people. Yeah, and we did an impromptu, I guess, modern Doctor Who cosplay meetup on Saturday with Monica, so that was great. Some of those pictures are posting now on the Instagram, and then you can find them there.
And before we go, I just want to say Gallifrey One got to do something they've never been able to do, and they were very excited about it, and they couldn't talk about it ahead of time. But on Sunday at 4 p.m. was a special presentation, and when people showed up for that, they were actually watching the episode of Doctor Who that was airing on BBC America that night. So they got to see it with 3,000 of their closest friends.
But that was nice, because this is the first time for Gallifrey One that the Doctor is actually airing while the convention's going on.
Oh,
yeah.
And I think when they were talking about Tosin Cole's interview, they were they were advertising as we've never been able to have a guest of a Gallifrey One guest that's also in the current Doctor Who series.
So that wraps up Gallifrey 1 2020. 31 flavors of Gallifrey. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook at The Universe Explodes.
All our episodes are engineered by Auburn.
You can find him at auburnbinkley.com.
You can also find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/whoknewpodcast.
All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
Visit our Facebook page.
Please leave comments, reviews, and click like to help support Who Knew Podcast.
To listen to our show on your Amazon Echo device, enable the AnyPod podcast skill. Ask AnyPod to play the Who Knew Podcast.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who,
the longest-running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival, spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell,
Sydney Newman,
Verity Lambert,
Ron Grainer,
Delia Derbyshire,
and all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
Your work continues to inspire and entertain.